Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we're going to dive into Mr. Fantastic's new uniform and what it changes and how much better it makes the character. But first, I want to show you guys the new splash screen when you log into the game, the new 28-day check-in. You have to log in all 28 days to get these rewards. The rewards are amazing, and I wouldn't be salty about it if they had just posted the rewards as they are, because a free CTP is a free CTP is a free CTP. However, as much as I hate complaining about free things, someone at Netmarble posted the word CTP selector in English, and that's just unacceptable. So I do think there should be some compensation for that. One suggestion that I heard on Twitch, which was quite good, is if they removed some of the worse or less effective CTPs from the pool. So remove transcendence, remove patience, remove refinement, and remove authority, so that the CTP chest would only drop randomly energy destruction, regen, or rage. I think that would be the best situation for everyone. I personally think they should just go ahead and give us the CTP selector. I don't think it's going to kill them to do so, but you know, we're going to have to wait and see what happens. Is it listed on this check-in? It's not listed here on this check-in just yet. But let's dive into this guy right here, Mr. Fantastic. What changed? How much better is he? And should you purchase this uniform? So the big change that you're going to see from Mr. Fantastic when you equip this uniform is that his physical attack stat jumps. So right now I'm at 37,500. If I unequip, I drop to 27. So it's a 10,000 buff. 10,000 stat buff. And yes, part of that is the 23% all attack that I get from the actual uniform, but the other is the 35% he gets from the uniform effect, which is pretty crazy. Additionally, he gets a minor skill change on his 5th skill, and he gets a pretty substantial change to his 3rd skill. So his 3rd skill is really what we're going to discuss. It changes around his rotation a little bit. He does lose the mobility of his old 3rd skill, where he would turn into that wheel. I actually really enjoyed that skill animation, and I wish they had kept it, but that's okay, because Rubber Drill has a pretty cool animation as well, and it gives him much needed stats. So he gets super armor, which is great, because now you don't need to worry about getting guard broken for PvE if you don't care about PvP, and you don't have to use Thing anymore. It gives him small defense, which is nice, but really the big deal is the 4 seconds of invincibility, which is much better than, I think, the 6 or 8 guard hit. Yeah, 6 guard hit that he used to get on that skill. And then if you compare the other abilities, he has accumulation. So if you take damage, you'll get a buff, and the buff will give him 5% for each 1%, which means he gets a 50% attack buff for 7 seconds. This is very good. And so basically the rotation that you want to use prioritizes 3 after 5 and 4, because you can't accumulate damage if you're in an iframe, and he's in iframe for 4 and he's in iframe for 5. So you basically want to do 5 and 4 and then do 3 and then do 1 and 2. The nice thing about that is before, you know, you did 3, 1 and 2 was pretty dangerous because it's just a guard hit, but now it's invincibility. So against most attacks, you won't take any damage at all, and you can safely use 1 and 2. Those are not iframes, they'll accumulate, and then you can go back into 5 and 4. The other small buff we have to look at is his 5th skill. So he used to have the stun, ignore dodge, immunity, and the 60% chance to penetrate barrier, shield, and immune for 8 seconds. So that penetration is the same, the immunity is the same, the ignore dodge is the same, but now he also gets a decrease all speed by 8%, which is it's not really that much. You're not going to really notice it in most game modes, but he also has some additional hits at the end of his 5th skill, so you may not want to cancel it as fast. So overall, I would say that the skill changes, while they are kind of minor, they are pretty important for the character. He gets a much needed survivability boost, 4 seconds of invincibility, as well as accumulation, in addition to the all defense, in addition to all of the stats. The stats are actually quite important. You know, 23% all defense for a combat type is nice, in addition to the fact that I could roll, like, he's got almost 20,000 energy or physical defense, in addition to the fact that I could roll HP on 2 and 3 to give him even more tankiness. I opted obviously for offensive stuff, so he is capped on both crit rate and crit damage. Crit rate and dodge. The crit damage is still a little bit low, but that's okay. For now, we're going to get more crit damage once we mythic his uniform. If you're curious about the options for his uniform, he's got X-Force X23, Thor Ragnarok, Cyclops Marvel now, Emma Frost Marvel now, and then Winter Soldier. So very easy to rank up, like solid uniforms that are good for all characters. Maybe only Cyclops's is bad. So he's got that going for him. But now let's take a look at how he actually plays. So we're going to originally originally test how he compares to where I was not that long ago, where I did a stage 60 pre-update snapshot with White Fox and Thing as the team-ups. I'm going to drop down to stage 60 and see how much faster he can get with this new build. Additionally, nope, thank you. Additionally, we are going to go with almost the same amount of strikers. We are not going to use we're not going to use, what's her name, Scarlet Witch, because we don't want the accumulation. Or sorry, because we don't want the mind control, because we do want the accumulation. I kind of switched that around in my head. So instead of Scarlet Witch, we're just going to not go with a 5th striker, just to kind of keep it fair. The reason why we don't want mind control, and I know that Weapon Hex does provide a little bit of mind control, but there's really not a lot, and it's only like 2 or 3 seconds. She's really there for the all defense down. But the reason why we don't want the mind control is because of the accumulation. Just like Captain America, we want to get hit with that 3rd skill because we want to collect the accumulation so that we can deal more damage with the abilities here. So we're going to wait, and then we're going to pop this again, and then we're going to do these skills here. We're going to get hit, and then we're going to go right back in. The real juicy part is when you can use 3 right before 6. And the reason why you want to cancel 3 into 6 is because his 6th skill is not an iframe. And look at that damage. Absolutely outrageous. The real big change here with the rotation for Mr. Fantastic actually happens at tier 3. And it's basically that you want to cancel 3 into 6 every time you pop that ultimate skill, because otherwise you're not going to get as much of a damage bump. But if you do it, you will get a substantial damage bump. Even during the skill, you can see I'm standing in those purple, those green circles, the acid sort of toxic meteorites. That will also enhance his damage as well, because he'll accumulate more damage from getting hit. So there really is just that one big shift. I think she was going to call that. Yeah, there we go. She was going to call that down, so we're going to switch. But you can see that the damage is a lot faster. We're not gonna go full throttle here because I don't want to die. But it's pretty substantial how much stronger he gets. And we're going to have to be careful here, but we're going to try to get hit, and then we're going to pop 6, and then we're going to try to freeze it here because we do not want to kill her. But we're getting quite close now, and we're, over a minute. We're just under a minute ahead of the old run, and that's with some time off for switching. And you can see I've taken damage, but even with the damage taken, I'm just scared we're going to kill her, and I'm going to... Well, anyways, it's a lot more damage. You can obviously tell. The old clip was 2 minutes and 44 seconds to actually kill her, stage 60. We were at 4 bars with 3 minutes and with more than a minute left. So he's at least 30 to 45 seconds faster on the same stage using the same team ups with 1 less striker. I just literally dropped a striker, so we are missing the mind control from Scarlet Witch, which doesn't help us, but we are also missing the all defense down that she provides. But this is definitely not as far as he can go. He can go further than that, so that's why I wanted to show you guys. So now let's go back, and we're going to use this. Well, we can actually use a modified team up. We don't necessarily need White Fox as much as we might need someone like Coulson, so we're actually going to swap him out for the guaranteed crit. And now we're going to go, and now we're going to go up to stage 69 to show you just how much more damage he can do. Now this, we're going to actually do this. I think this is probably better. We want to get hit this time. Now, the other good thing about Mr. Fantastic, for those of you that are wondering whether you should build him up, is that he is quite good against Thanos because he doesn't rely on all defense down to do his damage. Characters like this that deal all of their damage without having any defense down on their own skills are always ones to pay attention to, because it means that they have much higher base damage on their abilities. So that is something to take into consideration when comparing him to someone like Captain America. Captain America probably does more damage still than Mr. Fantastic because he's able to constantly apply all defense down, but if Cap didn't have the all defense down, I mean, you can just look at Captain America's Infinity War uniform. The damage was really not that great, especially compared to Mr. Fantastic. When you're comparing those two tier 3s, and part of the reason was because Cap didn't have all defense down, so he relied on not only the accumulation, but the all defense down from strikers. But Captain America is a really good comparison to Mr. Fantastic for a lot of reasons. I think for those of you that aren't going to tier 3 Mr. Fantastic, this uniform is probably one that you can skip. If you're going to keep Mr. Fantastic at tier 2, the reason why I say you can skip this uniform is because while he deals decent damage with his other skills, and he's a lot easier to play now with his new 3rd skill, he still deals the majority of his damage with his tier 3 skill. So he's very much like, I would very much compare him to Captain America Infinity War, where, you know, he didn't really deal much damage with 1 to 5. There was some damage, definitely, a lot more than maybe Captain America ever had before, but there still wasn't that much damage compared to when he got his endgame uniform, where now Captain America is even good at tier 2 for most players because he has that crazy all defense down that allows him to do so much more damage in PvE content. But because Mr. Fantastic doesn't have that, but he relies on his tier 3 skill to do most of his damage, and although he can function with a CTP of energy as well, he does also excel with a CTP of rage, so that's a pretty high cost to pay to get the most out of this uniform. So if you don't have a CTP of rage, and you don't have the opportunity, or you don't want to tier 3 Mr. Fantastic, then I would consider just skipping this uniform, because although it is a buff for the character, he's not going to see his true potential until you tier 3 him anyways. He's kind of in the same realm as someone like Wolverine. Although it is a buff for him, if you're not going to take Wolverine to tier 3, you're not going to see much of an increase with just the uniform at tier 2. It's not going to really change the character, which is what I would say nowadays about his about Captain America's Infinity War uniform. If we got the Infinity War uniform nowadays, we got Endgame obviously, but if we had gotten Infinity War now, I would honestly say, you know what, if you're not going to tier 3 Cap, just skip that uniform, because all the damage is in the tier 3 skill anyways. But you can see we're about 20 seconds out of the old stage 60 clear, and he is, even with all the running around that I have to do, he's clearing it. On top of that, I'm getting hit, I'm taking damage from Proxima, and he's not going down. So quite a lot more survivability from Mr. Fantastic. I think if you have him at tier 3, you kind of owe it to yourself to get this uniform, because it does add quite a lot of damage to him, and it will allow him to do both very high stages of Proxima and, you know, above, I would say above 30, 35 for Thanos for World Boss Ultimate. With this uniform. Additionally, he can do giant boss raid a lot more easily now with this new uniform, with that 10,000 you know, physical attack increase. Why did I die? That was so weird. It's a really big buff. I'm not sure why I died. I was pressing my skills and nothing was happening. I pressed my 3rd skill. Everything was going on cooldown and nothing was happening. He was just standing there. That was super duper weird. But let me give you a quick little showcase of his damage in Giant Boss Raid, and you guys can see what I'm talking about here. I don't really need these items, but let's see if we can put together a team really quickly. Oh, he's Blast, so we're not even going to be doing the right type. We're going to do the wrong type, but he's going to put in the work anyways. We'll play it safe, and we'll use a pretty strong team up for him, but he really bursts through this damage. I was surprised, actually, at how much damage he does now that he has a uniform, and he definitely becomes one of the faster GBR clears, at least for Master Mold for the time being, even if you're on the off-type day. I tried him against the combat one, so he was kind of equal. I want to try him against the off-type one here, see if it's a lot slower, but I believe that clear that I did was in about 1.5 minutes. So we're gonna have to see how fast this one is as soon as I get a team. So there we go, we secured a team. Shout out to Killer Freeze and Jazz Zombie, who I originally read as another type of zombie. And let's go ahead and see how he does in GBR. But to recap what I've been saying throughout the video, I know that was kind of disappointing that I didn't get the kill, the final kill on Proxima, but he can absolutely do a stage 69 with at least like 1 minute to 1.5 minutes remaining. If you get lucky on the all defense down, I would say he would probably finish with about 2 minutes remaining. But I would say that if you are nice, very nice damage. If you are, if you have, or if you're going to tier 3 Mr. Fantastic, I think you should purchase this uniform while it's on sale. But I do think that if you're not going to tier 3 Mr. Fantastic, if you're just going to keep him at tier 2 forever, or for the time being at least, I think you can probably skip on this uniform for now and maybe purchase it on Black Friday when it's a little bit more on sale, or just wait for another time when it's possibly more advantageous to have a tier 3 combat character like Mr. Fantastic, because I do think that he's really going to do a lot of the same things that Captain America does for you, except that he's, 400 CCF more expensive than Captain America. So I really don't see too much of an emphasis or too much of an explanation of a reason why I would tier 3 him over Captain America. He's definitely easier to play than Captain America, so there definitely is that to consider. But there we go, a minute and 37 seconds. Super, super fast clear. He just crushes it. I did 79% of the damage. He just bursts through, so his damage is very, very high, and he's got a lot more survivability. But again, if you're only going to have a tier 2 Captain Mr. Fantastic, I don't think he's going to be he's going to be that impactful. If he had a good striker skill that had like all defense down like Captain America does, you might be more inclined to get him even at tier 2 with the uniform. But because all of his buffs are only for his own gameplay and not as a striker, I'm a little bit more inclined to say tier 3 Mr. Fantastic, hell yeah, you got to purchase this uniform. Tier 2 gonna tier 3, I would still purchase it. Tier 2 never gonna tier 3. That would probably then depend on, do you need a stronger combat character for PvE and possibly Shadowland and stuff like that? He's not going to give you much value in PvP with his build. And then it obviously depends on whether you have tier 3 Captain America. But I'm pretty satisfied with the uniform. I think it addresses all of the existing issues or weaknesses of Mr. Fantastic, which is great. I don't think they went far enough with the potential for PvP, which I'm a little bit disappointed in. I think his uniform bonus could have been, maybe 20% all attack, and then some other bonuses like maybe flat 20% damage reduction to make him better for PvP or something like that. Or they could have given him a heal, or just, I don't know, they could have given him something to make him a bit more interesting for PvP. But I think they just basically covered up his weaknesses for PvP, and they just enhanced his damage for PvE, so he just basically becomes more efficient for that sort of content. So let me know what you think of Mr. Fantastic. Let me know which of the Fantastic Four you want to see next in a uniform review video. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. Thank you so much for watching all the content, and of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you later today. Take care.